Good afternoon and happy Friday. Well, we finally made it, the last day of the month, quarter and financial year, and it was an underwhelming end indeed. The ASX 200 down 20 points or a third of 1% to 6,194, unable to make it 4 straight weeks of gains, and we certainly did fade in the last hour or so of trade as plenty of investors squaring up their books at this time of the year. But there were some standouts today. None did better than really Wattle Health, which rose by 31%. The group actually struck a deal to supply infant formula, about $6.5 million worth in the next 12 months to a group in China, and it's going to double volumes in the following year, so it rose on that news. Virtus Health, another strong performer, it rose by about 4%. This is the largest fertility clinic operator in Australia, and it's continuing to expand internationally, and today it announced the purchase of a Danish fertility clinic for about $43 million. Atlas Iron also making some headlines. The Iron Ore Miners Board has unanimously backed Gina Rinehart's bid for the group, which values the company at about $390 million. And that's certainly been one of the main drivers of its shares this month, which have jumped about 40% in the month of June alone. So looking back at the past 12 months, it's been a relatively solid year for Aussie shares at least. We had the ASX 200 up about 8.5% in 12 months, very similar to the performance from our market a year earlier. The best performing sector by far, the energy sector, which has jumped by almost 40%. And that's been largely thanks to a big lift in oil prices, which have jumped about 60% over that period. In the losers column, it was all the telcos, which fell very, very heavily. And it's partly because that industry is going under change, and a few of the big players there have lost quite a bit of ground. So looking at specific stocks, the best performer, at least at the big end of town on the ASX 100, was A2 Milk, which tripled in value over the year. Did very well in particular in the first half of the financial year, but has struggled in recent months after a few warnings of lower sales. The second best performer was Whitehaven Coal. Coal sales have improved for the company. Coal prices are also up. And the third best was Santos, certainly the standout in the energy space. Not only have oil prices jumped, but it's been approached a number of times over the year to be taken over. In the losers column, Telstra was the worst. It fell about 40%. Plenty of profit warnings. The second worst is AMP. The Royal Commission hearings, of course, playing a part. And Ramsay Healthcare was also down quite heavily on some disappointing earnings. Now tonight, busy night ahead. We've got the European Union Summit continuing. Plenty of talk about migration there and also trade. And in the US, the highlight will be the key indicator of inflation. The Aussie dollar finally about 3 cents below where it was 12 months earlier at 73.8 US.